Hi there, this is Izzy. Today I'm going to be remossing some of my newest Neofinitias in the traditional Japanese style of a sphagnum moss mound. I am very inexperienced at this, so we'll see how it actually turns out. The first thing I'm going to do is remove these Neos from the moss that they came in. And this moss is quite fresh, but these Neos are going to sit in the new moss for a whole year. The next thing will be to check the roots for any signs of roots that need removing, so any that are dead and decaying or that might sour the mound in some way. So I'll just chop those off. Now that that's all done, I can actually start forming the inside of my mound. So I'm going to be using a little plastic former, and this is a little hydroponics pot, so that my Neo will have a nice full air pocket underneath it that won't deform. And that is going to be covered in sphagnum moss. So the Neo will sit on sphagnum moss on the little plastic former. So I've squeezed that moss so that it's nice and dry and it forms a kind of compact pad. And now I'm going to position my Neofinitia so that it sits on that pad. And I'm going to try and wiggle it about until it looks right to me. This is where I'm going to set the aesthetics of this plant and how it sits. Next step is to carefully wrap my plant in 5A long strand sphagnum moss. This is going to hold the plant in place, but also that sphagnum moss is going to act a bit like a sponge, and it's going to wick up any water that I water the plant with and supply that to the roots constantly. It's also going to dry pretty quickly because of that nice air pocket underneath it. So this is kind of the perfect environment for these Neofinitias, which are now classed as Vandas and need quite a lot of air around the roots. Now wrapping the roots is a little bit tricky, so I've got to reposition the orchid whilst I'm doing it, or try and keep it in the position I want, whilst also trying to get the right strands in the right places. And you'll notice I'm taking one strand at a time at the moment and carefully wrapping it around back on itself to hold itself in place. I could take many strands at a time to do this instead, but single strands are easier to control for me at the moment since I'm not very experienced. And there you have it, one Neo potted up in a mound. Not the biggest mound, not the fluffiest mound, but it will do. That moss mound will give the Neo a nice air pocket underneath it and a nice rapid drying environment on the top. Now time to do exactly the same thing with the other two. Now this plant is still a little bit wobbly after remossing, so I'm using some toothpicks pushed into the moss mound and carefully avoiding the roots in order to hold it up a little bit. And that's it, that's my 3 little Neofinitias repotted. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you've got any suggestions or recommendations, please put them down below in the comments. If you'd like to see more, just subscribe to the channel. But for now, that's it from me. Bye!